Welcome to our artist talk with Refik Anadol and the lender Claudia Nehmert. Please let us welcome first Claudia Nehmert. She is part of the telecom management responsible for technology and innovation, and we are very thankful with her help we could show the monumental installation satellite simulations that is part of the telecom art collection. Welcome, Claudia Nehmert. And please welcome the artist, Refik Anadol. And it's really a great honor to have Refik Anadol here today because he has really an incredible busy schedule. He just had a show at MoMA, New York. He did an installation for the Grammy Awards, headed to the World Economic Forum in Davos to show his latest choral works, and I'm sure I forgot a lot of other stations. So now finally he arrived in Düsseldorf. Welcome again to both of you. Thank you so much to be here. My name is Alain Bieber. I'm the curator of the exhibition and also head of time-based media collection of Kunstpalast, and will guide us through this talk. We will talk for about 1 hour and will open then also the podium for some of your questions. I'd like to start our talk with the latest news in AI. Last week, European policymakers have reached an agreement to regulate AI technology. AI systems should be classified to the level of risk, and in case of generative AI, the question is also whether copyrighted material was used in the development. Refik, what is your stance on this? What does such a possible regulation mean for you and for the art and perhaps for the AI world in general?
Wow, the first regulation. So I think from my heart answer, regulation keyword is a little bit annoying for any artist who wants to break the rules and who wants to go beyond the possibilities. But in this case, AI is a dangerous form of technology that can harm the humanity. So I think without being a visual thinker, we have to create guardrails that take care of humanity's problems, and things may go wrong. But from my inner world, as an artist, likes to break things, we need to find a new way of putting those guardrails. Like I'm pretty sure everyone in Europe, I accept cookies. We accept all the time cookies. Still we have an AI, learn from all our past memories. So it needs to just a different type of imagination, I think.
And Claudia, Europe is already lagging behind the US and China in terms of AI development. Isn't there also a danger that further regulation will kill innovation and creativity?
So I would say artificial intelligence impacts the way we live, interact, how we work. It's all pervasive. And because the evolution is so fast, human beings assume superpowers to it, and sometimes it creates big anxiety. And therefore, I think it's actually very important that we provide more access to the technologies. And like what you said, because there's hardly any other technology that is so much reflective like how we are as human beings, I think it is actually important to have rules, but we must watch out that we do not try to start over-regulating at a point in time where we don't know yet how it's going to evolve. Maybe I can actually say one thing: the likelihood that machines take over is as if you would assume that your robot who cuts the grass would actually get a Nobel Prize in physics. Yeah, so there's no need to worry about that one.
Yeah, one last anxious question, but I just need to quote it because it was also making the news in Germany. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, one of the founders behind the amazing AI softwares DALL-E 2 and ChatGPT, compared his firm to the Manhattan Project. I'm not sure if you heard about this news, the secret project that led to the construction of the first US atomic bomb. So I'm not really sure if this is the best comparison for a new technology, so it was quite harsh. Question to both of you. Are you sometimes worried what is being unleashed right now with the AI?
You want to start? Okay. No, ChatGPT has given broad access, and we all got fascinated by the answers it was actually producing, right? I would say that specific warning was more around the fact what can happen if we allow a lot of bias into the data sets, or what can happen if we actually do not give access and make it open so that others understand as well what's actually going on. So therefore, I can understand the warning, but also here I would urge us to really try out, but not in a naive manner, not assuming that you would actually get the absolute truth, which you can't get by the type of algorithms here.
I would say, first of all, we as an art studio, we have a Slack channel with OpenAI team. So just want to say that even though this is an interesting topic about...
An AI?
AI.
No, it's already...
Really? It knows that. So I think to say it honestly, again, OpenAI, we have an open channel in Slack, where we discuss these tools and services before they become a product. So I think it's a great example that even OpenAI, with this interesting statement, they are trying, a year ago, we have access to all these tools. So I think it's a great model that they are not rushing to put a product in the humanity and, oh wow, we did something wrong, it's too late, right? This pause letter, like, it's so funny, like how you can take out a moving plane and they were asking like to take a motor and put a new motor. So I don't think it is realistic, but I think what was really interesting to me is being sure that those companies are first trusting artists, because I do believe we as artists are the alarm mechanism for humanity. I hope that we can ask honest questions and really think about what may go wrong way before, and then hopefully what humanity gets is something a little bit more questioned. They are humbly trying it, not 100% yet, but I can say that's a good solution to think before things get out of control.
Yeah, like today, like almost like every contemporary artist I know wants to work with an AI, but you're really one of the pioneers in the field. Perhaps you can share a bit of your input, how you started with the technology as a creative tool. I know you prepared some slides for us to give us a short introduction to your work.
Yes. So first of all, I'm so happy to be here in Düsseldorf. It's my first time, 28 hours in Düsseldorf, but I'm so happy because every morning I was waking up with incredible messages from people who are seeing the piece. And also thanks for the sponsorship, thanks for the museum for hosting the piece. So I'm very grateful. But I want to start with this incredibly important quote that I wrote. I read, thanks to Hans Ulrich. Peter Weibel, we just lost him a couple of weeks ago. He was one of my heroes, 2008. I met in Istanbul. And he was one of our mentors. And I learned what media art means from him. I think he is the legend who preserved media art, science, and technology. And in his class, I was very fortunate to talk about data painting 15 years ago. And thanks to him, he was saying that the idea is amazing, you find something rare, and he said, hold on to it. And he said there will be people complaining about the things may go wrong for humanity. He said computers cannot make art, AI cannot make art. But he was very right. One day, people will understand the importance of artistic interpretation of humanity. So I'm grateful for him. And also want to say this quote we read when we entered the room is very important, because to understand artists like me who have been exploring what is real, what is not, is really in the fundamentals of science fiction. But science fiction is something, a safe space, where we watch movies, where we think that things are not real, but feels real, that kind of in-between space. So I'm very grateful for many science fiction movies, including Philip K. Dick, and dystopian, utopian, doesn't matter. But also Istanbul, where I'm coming from, is a really interesting city, because it's really left and right, west and east, black and white, like centuries connecting. And my school was in Anatolia, my work was in Europe, like it's always you are in these two stages. I think physical and virtual context coming from the city. 8 years old, got my first computer, which was a very funny start. My mom, it's completely random, asked my father, we should just give him some kind of a computer because like he's opening all the radios and pickups and stuff. So maybe he doesn't break things at home. And then the same year, I watched a movie, Blade Runner, which is pretty much dystopian sci-fi. But I think when we are a child, we don't see dystopia. We see hope, we see joy, we see things that are positive in life. And I didn't know English. My cousin translated this movie into Turkish. I'm hoping he did a good job. But he said, like, here's an android, and saying that this android's memories are not her, it's someone else's memories. And I remember it was an amazing moment as a child, like thinking about an AI, talking another AI, saying that these are not your memories. That's how I started thinking about, I think, creativity. And 2008, started using a software called VVVV, and Berlin and Frankfurt-based also amazing group of artists and creative coders. It's a free software you can download. It's on mostly Windows-based. An amazing software. I'm not like a heavy coder, but I love visual programming language where you can connect, object-based thinking. And started doing a lot of work, including the Essen Werden School of Design, Sanat's building, and did many, many projects early days. But I think I really love the idea of Kierkegaard, which is, I think, right now what's happening to us. Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. I think it's exactly what's happening to us. All these large language models are taking our data from past years and try to let us help to imagine the future. But I think, to me, it was much more emotional. It was the poetics of data. And again, thanks to Peter Weibel, he was one of these very early inspiring person. And it's very true that if we think that data is beyond numbers, data is a form of memory, and this memory can take any shape and form and texture, that becomes, to me, a way of imagining what data means and how can we shape it. But in the meantime, we as humanity getting connected. And I think what is really important to imagine is we all are becoming this new, a part of a system, a machine, hardware, and software that pretty much we can't stop. It's all the time on. And I think what is also questioning is reality, where it starts, where it ends. And in art, artists always ask these questions when we are practicing. So it's not too hard to imagine a new world between physical and virtual. But I don't want to, again, sound wishful thinker, because I think technology is completely transforming our DNA, gene, culture, families, discourse, context, and also, sometimes, I'm pretty sure, you are like this, we don't know what is controlling us. And I think we are all becoming this liminal space of sense of displacement. So knowing all this, I thought that the question for this challenge as an artist is, took it very serious, and what does it really mean to be a human in the 21st century? And this animal learns how to use Instagram in 20 seconds. So I don't believe using a system or a hardware software is anymore something important. By the way, I have a critic who can't log in Instagram and criticizing AI art, so, it's an interesting time. So I moved to Los Angeles 2012 and started a new journey, and I'm really grateful for UCLA, where I got my second MFA degree in design media arts, and these questions cannot be answered. So here is my giants that I'm on their shoulder. So we are now 20 people, can speak 15 languages and 10 countries in Los Angeles, California. And so it's not an egocentric journey, it's a journey of collective thinking, collective imagining, and I'm really grateful for last many years. Sorry, it was a long answer, but...
Oh, it's...
No, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you.
You wanted to show more, or it's more
Yes.
The works, or we can come later?
So, maybe we can... last couple of years.
Some visual impressions from the last works.
I think generally what you will see a pattern of public art. So maybe, yeah. Yeah.
Can you bring the sound a bit?
So, what I am very
Wenn wir den Sound leiser machen.
Yeah, so what we will be seeing in the video is last couple of years. But I was really inspired about three things that I think that made our work internationally hopefully understood. So I do believe that art should be for anyone, any age and any background. I do believe that we can find the language of humanity. But to make this happen, I think the best way to start is public space, public art, the streets, the places where there is no beginning, there is no end, there is no floor, there is no ceiling. So in the last now 8-9 years, the first focus was make public art free and open to everyone. And over the years, like 11 years ago, I also started doing immersive environments. I do believe that architecture is beyond concrete, glass, and steel. I do believe that before wearing a TV on our face, there is still a room for us collectively imagine things. And I really believe that future should not be only like individual experiences. Future should still offer us a possibility to become together. And that's why you will see a lot of artworks in the public spaces, exploring large-scale canvases, and you will see a pattern that my heroes, such as Frank Gehry, Zaha Hadid, Gaudi, Sanas, and recently Mozart, and hopefully many more. And I think this is intentionally I'm looking for who inspired me, who inspired humanity, and how can we connect them together. But I think the most biggest, really, I guess, from my heart intention is truly get rid of this biased world of art and create a new kind of thinking. How can we truly reach everyone in the world without any single question and being sure the artwork is there? It's pretty much like a Borgesian thinking, library of the future or library of Babel, but I'm super inspired by collective memories of humanity. The collective meaning, like, I hope belongs to everyone, not a private, but more like a thinking that urban, nature, space, and culture. So last 9 years, constantly, we look for these patterns and make paintings, sculptures, performances, and in other weird things with art.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, very impressive. Like, I have some very concrete questions immediately because I did some guided tours through the exhibition and some questions that come. I collected them from the audience. But Claudia, perhaps you can tell us also, like, first, your starting point. How did like Telekom come to work with an artist like Refik Anadol, and in general, why are you like cooperating with museums, and how do you discovered him?
Oh, see, technology has actually always inspired art. It's not a new thing of the 21st century. I mean, in the Industrial Revolution, we had artists starting to work with metal. Like, think about the Eiffel Tower. And on the other hand, technology actually gives an emotional. Our art gives an emotional access to technology, and therefore more people get actually inspired and interested in that. Yeah, so I view it a bit democratic. And for us as a company who provides connectivity, it's actually important that as many human beings as possible have also an emotional aspect and access to technology, and that's why we are actually working with and sponsoring artists, great artists who actually work with these technologies, and this is how we actually got to know each other. And Refik, your piece of art, the satellites, which you can see here in the exhibition, was actually shown first at our booth at the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona in 2022. And now, before we handed it over to you here, you could actually see it at a public space at Deutsche Telekom. So we are really interested in understanding that interplay, mutual inspiration between technology and art. And not only images, but also music and sculpture. For that reason, we have also done an experiment together with musicians, conductors, and artificial intelligence researchers, how to actually complete Beethoven's 10th Symphony. I guess what I mean, the expert said it's not really like Beethoven, but it actually was very inspiring how that interaction between man and machine was actually working. And that's for us, as Telekom, the reason why we are sponsoring and working with museums and artists, right? I have sometimes the impression, if you go to the metaverse, you try to escape from reality, but if you go here, you go into the reality, yeah? Because you find, Refik, what you said, that fusion between the digital work and the real world, and I must say I love that very much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Refik, one question that came over and over, like, I think for a lot of people, what you're doing looks like alchemy or like a magician something. So the question is, how are you really doing it? So if I understand, it's like a process of collecting a lot of data first, images. So one concrete question is like, how are these static images becoming like moving images?
Yes, so I have an answer as a keynote, short. But, so do you remember this image? Anyone? 2015 summer. The very first time Yeah, exactly. So I was so happy when I saw this image. One of the very early, I think 7 years ago, feels like late or early, I don't know how you feel, but to me, when I saw this image, it was an amazing day. Finally, first time, we were talking about open source, publicly available, code that can do an image like this. This is a backpropagation, a technique that Google engineers apply to an AI model trained with animal images, and it was kind of hallucinating. And it's called like Inception, which is interesting dialogues between many movies and other ideas. But what was amazing is 2016 February in San Francisco, a group of engineers from Google came together and made an auction to give back to the artist communities who couldn't achieve certain works. And I was the only one on the stage as an artist, doesn't know how to use AI. And that day, I met with Blaise. You should look at his amazing work as an ethical researcher at AI. He was saying in the event, on the stage, like the invention of applied pigments, printing press, photography, and computers, we believe machine intelligence is an innovation that will profoundly affect art. 2016 February, and the next morning, I was the first artist at residence at Google. So 7 years with AI feels like 70 years. And I want to show you why. So to me, as an artist, enjoying life comes from the consciousness, and I'm pretty confident that many people like us trying to ask these questions, like what is consciousness? Can we quantify it? But the best thing that I heard was from Anil Seth. He has an amazing TED Talk, you can watch it. He says, consciousness is a controlled hallucination. I love this so much, because it really makes sense for AI. Takes data, turn into a knowledge and a wisdom, right? So, but the whole idea of this one day, every single information in the world, one day, in one location, no privacy, all open source, free. That's how I started about, I guess, thinking about AI and memories. 2016, it now feels ancient, but was the very first project is using 1.7 million documents. By the way, it's a organization called Le International, I think 12 libraries, all free and open source data, accessible for everyone. That's how I started working with AI in the most, let's say, public context. This artwork was using real-time AI algorithms in a library where we learn what is real, and it can create hallucinations and speculate what happens if AI can create new realities. And again, this is 7 years ago. But what was fascinating to me, the image on the left side, for 9 years, 6 researchers doing, the image on the left side, less than 9 minutes, AI takes data, puts together. And I truly tell the story of between this. Like what happens if we find AI as a powerful tool? But of course, it comes with a price, which can create hallucinations. So the question to me was, if a machine can learn, can it hallucinate? So what we are seeing on the left side, very early AI algorithm called generative adversarial network, trained on 1.7 million documents, which is a 2-dimensional image. They are not like a real video. It's not image. It is a code-based mathematical representation of what AI can show. So it's not like a photographic image or a video collage. It's mathematical, seeing this invisible world of AI. But to me, what was more inspiring, how can we take machine hallucinations, not only 2-dimensional, but in 3-dimensional? Again, thanks to Peter Weibel, he challenged me that if a data becomes a pigment, it doesn't need to dry. It doesn't need to be in the like our Newtonian reality. Why it needs like gravity? What happens if it doesn't dry? So it was fantastic to me in input. And last 7 years, we download more than 4 billion images of many things. And these are our collective memories. We never use personal data, and we only look for the things that I hope belongs to humanity. And I do believe urban cities, culture, archives, art collections, nature, like in the exhibition, flora systems, oceans, and forests, and landscapes, things I hope belongs to all of us. In the last 7 years, starting very humble, it turned into a body of work. So till coming to the show here in Kunstpalast, that was 7 years of obsessive research in different archives, different augmentation of pigmentations. But specifically, I'm obsessed with fluid dynamics last 10 years, maybe more than 10 years now, because I just found it so fascinating that if I had a chance to make a thinking brush, and this brush can be dipped into the mind of a machine, I hope that it's just conscious, it's just always in flux, in change. So that's how it started. But we can see in this video, different archives, different data can create different behavior and different exploration of memories of humanity. But of course, as Carl Sagan says, imagination will often carry us to the worlds that never were, but without we go nowhere. So I got much fascinated by the idea of how we can use AI as a mean of perception. Like, for example, these are Persian poet Rumi's Mesnevi. On the very left, 19 language of Mesnevi, read by AI. 6 months later, another AI. 6 months later, another AI. Even the perception of a written format can be changed. The reason is AI is not a tool like conventional artists can use, like a brush or a pigment or a canvas. Every morning, you wake up, you have a new AI. Every night, someone makes a new breakthrough, you wake up uncomfortable. But I love this feeling because I think it's exactly how the future is. Or if you look at here, we have the Mozart. Every single music he ever wrote and ever listened, and the same thing, AI can listen and create new dimensions. I think this is a way of thinking of how to shape information as a pigment, as a sculpture, and many more. So I would say answer is machine hallucinations became not only just a beautiful aesthetic exploration, but also try to understand how AI can understand us and how we can represent the knowledge, information, archives in the age of machine intelligence. And of course, imagination. Why not we step into the mind of a machine? So 5 years ago, we did this project with the New York data set of 113 million images where you can step inside this feeling. Because I do believe that this feeling of being in the mind of a machine sounds like a very sci-fi, but I think we can design environments where we can go and feel it and sense it. So this piece was kind of saying that before a TV on our face, there is a world in physical world that we can feel, touch, and think about these feelings.
So I always try to explain that the algorithm are kind of your assistants and that you tell them how to behave and what kind of output you want to have. When are you coming as an artist to the point where you are happy with the result? Because it's a kind of machine-human dialogue, no?
Yes, 100%. So first of all, when we talk about big data, everyone feels like, oh, they are dumping images online. It's very hard. So we dedicate sometimes 6 months for just cleaning data. Because ethically, what we do with AI is so important. We download data, we spend a lot of time to find AI to make that AI more ethical, so to be sure that there's not anything we don't want in that data set. Because I think, spiritually talking, the data has to be so correct that AI can lead to a place where it can touch the human mind and soul. So that's how I think about sterile thinking with data. And I'm working around 16, 18 hours a day, which is a little bit not normal, but I think it's the only way to truly connect with my team and be sure every single parameter I am aware of it, and 100% connected with every parameter, machine decisions, and data sets.
Because a lot of works are kind of best off, like the massive satellite simulation is 16 minutes video loop. So you could have also theoretically let the machine producing endless. Why is this not a thing you would like to do?
So it's absolutely doable to just replace me with something else, a random code, and make 10 things. It's not that hard. Which way of work I will show you that can do it. But I do still believe that it's a human-machine collaboration. It's art, science, and technology. And it's really fundamental to be sure that there is human in between us and the machine. I think it's really fundamental.
And Claudia, as we know and you all see, graphic installations are very immersive and interactive experiences, and also with the music and images are very poetical, and this installation hypnotically captivates you. Do you think that machines can dream as a technologist?
Wow, can machines dream? I'm neither an artist nor a medical doctor, but a physicist. And so therefore, allow me to say the following. When you are dreaming, what your brain does, it actually takes different memories and then it connects them, partially randomly, but maybe partially also of what you do unconsciously. And as the result, you can actually, or I can, walk with my mother, my daughter, all of us, the same age, work with snowboard in a desert and sing to a Billie Eilish song, and then we are actually very happy, what doesn't happen in reality. And to some extent, when you look at the data you used for your satellite installation, you took them from the International Space Station, from Hubble's telescope, and then you work with them and you create these wonderful images of hallucination. Second one, example, take ChatGPT. What does it do? Based on these enormous amount of data, plus the number of neural nodes in the neural network, it actually calculates the statistically most likely words that fits actually into that. And it was also trained to chat. Therefore, it keeps talking, not always exactly right, but it's actually getting better. And let me give as last example the point which I made about Beethoven. When trying to complete that super piece of art, the AI was actually fed with music of Beethoven, but also music of artists who came later, because he was a very progressive artist in his time. And the result was always, Refik, like you described it, cleaning the data, playing it back to the human beings, back and forth, and the combination of the human beings and the assistant AI made something very interesting. What I found interesting, though, is the AI itself didn't want to stop. Yeah, it would go on forever and not actually, at least the one we used, not create a good finish of it. So in that sense, the result of those technologies produce something on which we react very emotionally as human beings. But the technology itself is not emotional. And we shouldn't confuse that. It's the interaction and what we perceive. And then we react like that. And then sometimes we tend to humanize technology. And it's not the technology which is human, it's actually us. And because these algorithms, or more broadly, artificial intelligence and large language models are so powerful technologies, because they mirror us as human beings, it is so important that we as society agree for which we use it and for what not. And that links back to your first question. And I must also say this is why I think we have an accountability. And in that sense, maybe I should mention that a company like Telekom was actually among the first big companies who defined rules for how we apply AI. For example, that the final control is always with a human being on the result. Or, for example, that you as a human being know whether you are dealing with a human being or actually a bot. Yeah? So in that sense, I would say it can, together with humans, create fantastic ideas of hallucination, but we always need to watch out that we don't interpret the algorithm as human. We are the humans who react in a human manner to it.
Yeah, Refik, in a recent conversation, you also said that you have always believed that there is another world around us that we cannot perceive, but that exists, the world of data, sensors and machine. Perhaps you can explain a bit what you mean by this.
So because of that, early ages, my mom brought me to a psychologist and saying, this child is looking at the walls and the door, very weird. And the doctor said, it's imagination, it's fine. But I always believe that there is a world beyond us. I hope there is. And not necessarily talking about spiritual worlds beyond us, but I do believe that even the signals in this room, all the phones, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, things that we know the machines communicate each other. We know that there is a world of signals around us, that we know that systems connect to each other. So I was trying to mention that world. But I think it's really inspiring when we think about making invisible visible. And I think it's exactly what algorithms, AI, eventually, can do that. But this idea a little bit starting very interesting question. I just want to show an example. I think, like many artists in the history, we see that there's this obsession about memory. And I don't know where it's coming from, but mine is coming from an unfortunate event. 2016, my uncle diagnosed by Alzheimer's. And I was coming from Bay Area with all these genius engineers and blah, blah. And I came back to Istanbul, and my uncle was just diagnosed stage 2. So I couldn't even say anything in our dinner because I was just so coming with this hype. But at the end of the day, his memories were melting. And it was a very heavy hit. And then I thought about, like, can we touch our memories, something invisible, but without breaching privacy? That's where we need to find a new way, because the current system we have is sucking all our memories, decisions, like all these like likes, comments, shares, and that system is doing other things. I thought that this maybe, if we can create a software, which in this case you are seeing as scientific software, thanks to, by the way, Adam Gesley, professor at UCSF, he is writing games to cure depression. Just someone very inspiring. And I asked Adam, is it possible to like just recognize the moment of remembering? And he said, it's possible, but you need some data, and of course AI algorithm, and you can quantify these invisible patterns. So that's where I truly understand that it is possible, without breaching privacy, we can collect data of the moment of remembering and encrypt them in a form of these artworks. And one more example, to go much more practical, this piece is called Sense of Healing. It is using a data from children mental health from Lausanne Hospital. There is 5 artworks, each of them visualizing the moment of healing scientifically in fMRI, DTI, and EEG images. And we were able to create this artwork and donate it to UNICEF for 1.7 million euro. So this is not just a beauty piece, but it's truly a functional artwork, solving a problem and creating benefits for UNICEF. So I really believe that while it starts with a question, but the idea can lead to a point that is functional and making an impact for humanity. Just one example as an answer. I found it really interesting.
Yeah, I'm also very curious like about your upcoming big project, Data Land, claimed as the first multisensory metaverse. And here also you're working with neuroscientists, and
Yes.
Maybe you can give us also a sneak preview, what is the project about, or
Yes.
why is there also neuroscience in it?
I think this multi-sensory word
He has
is
presentations
too
for
much.
every question.
So I want to be sure this is not another, there are some immersive rooms, Van Gogh, like very, bad experiences. The reason I'm saying bad because I love Van Gogh. Someone as a live artist couldn't sell even more than 2 works. It just hurts in a different way. But the whole story started to me in pandemic, to 2020 maybe, a little bit early. This AI trained with 75 million flowers. There is 16,000 species based on the Smithsonian archives. And we did this project as one of the reactions in the pandemic. But what was really interesting is, yes, we can train AI with images, we can train with text, we can train with sound, but can we smell this dream? So that's when I started thinking about how can we go beyond our comfort zone. So this is a machine we created. This is another AI, can train on 500,000 sand molecules, an amazing team at Geneva at Firmenich. They're leftover AI. I'll explain why leftover. But this AI, we were able to show with our AI, let it dream molecules, and in real time, when you enter this drawer, the room, this was constantly imagining these flowers, these forms, and the smell of it. And I think this is now I'm talking about truly multisensory. Sound, image, scent, what else? So that's what Data Land is. And by the way, just for remind you, similar AI research, in St. Agnes, we were able to augment the tower as well with a similar data, but it was trained on local Berlin flora systems. So just want to say that once we have an AI in our hands as an algorithm, creatively we can go beyond just a 2-dimensional world. We can even put on like a stage, like in this case, real-time performance and a real-time audiovisual performance that the scent applied. Like we can go a little bit like beyond our imagination. So Dataland is kind of trying this idea that started after seeing this amazing reaction across the world. I mean, I can add many more Ts. But as an artist, what I found so powerful is, like, how can we gratefully learn about this impact of the work, and how can we be sure that future generations working with AI and many advanced tools have a home, have a room that is not necessarily in the agenda of museums and galleries. So that's how it started. But as we all know, currently AI has massive problems. We are hearing a lot of problems from artists that I don't want to use that tool. There's other artists' work, and it's rightful. And I'm the same thing. We train our own models for that purpose. At Dataland, we decided to start not only egocentrically work on an AI, but do something as an example for humanity, co-creation. So I was literally, an incredible inspiration came from these two people, Chief Nishiwaka and his creative force Putani. They live in Brazil, Amazon Acre, in rainforest. And I was deeply inspired by their ways of remembering and learning already existing knowledge in nature. They live 120 years. They don't have diabetics. They don't have cancer, Alzheimer's, dementia, COVID deaths. When you talk with ancestral wisdom, we all living in this simulation, and we solve problems, and we are so happy. But they are saying, we never have these problems. Yeah. So this was a very mind-opening process. And I said, that's my mentors. I need your inputs to create an AI model, open source, free for humanity. That's how Dataland started. But this is an AI model that I dream. It's a rainforest AI model. I hope that it's important for humanity. These are lungs. If we don't have rainforest, most likely we don't have oxygen and many other problems, the richest biome in the world. So this is a co-creation with them. And not necessarily just egocentric, we also look for their dreams. And there's only 1,000 people in their tribe, and they are looking for new ways of communicating. But what inspired me is, last 10 years, for thousands of years, they only play with the nature, like existing leaves and trees and animal voices, jaguars and snakes. But last 10 years, they decided to use instruments. They are so innovative. By the way, they don't need anything at all. Please don't get me wrong. They need nothing. They are so happy. But they're also looking for co-creation. And to go there, this is how you go. It takes 14 hours on the Amazonia. No private jets, no helicopters, pure human experience, true, honest journey in the nature. It was just fantastic. And I thought that this is how we should do. Ask the people who are living in the forest, work with them, learn from them, and train AI with the ancestral wisdom and give it to the humanity. And at Dataland in Los Angeles, we are opening our first location thanks to Frank Gehry. And I think it will be an exciting place where we can see, hear, smell, touch, and taste AI dreams.
That's also why you're not only exhibiting in museums, no? It's, yeah.
Thank you. Not to me, to them.
So this is also the reason why you're not only like trying to be a famous artist, do museum shows. That's why you're also going to Davos and meet like people from science and politics. Yes. And
Davos was amazing. I was saying this. I'm very grateful. I'd never been close to the world leaders before. I was close to many people, but never like this. It's a building, by the way, for 3 days, almost 5,000 world leaders in one building. It was very powerful. Like, I truly feel that in this building, we can change the world, kind of. And for that project, the focus was corals, because we know that, unfortunately, climate change is making the seawater less habitable due to the climate change, and the coral reefs are dying rapidly. So we focus on something, how can we use AI to preserve nature? So we train our custom model with 100, actually I can show you quickly. Sorry, this is one. Is it? Yeah, so this is the research. So we were able to create a generative AI model by fine-tuning 100 million coral images and create those almost realistic forms in both 2D and 3D. And we are working with ocean conservatory teams to understand if we can 3D print and put it back into the water. Perhaps we can reconstruct ecosystem. Perhaps what we lost, yes, it doesn't solve the problem, yes, but can we at least reconstruct ecosystems around the same areas? It's a hopeful question, not a wishful thinking, but based on the science, because AI is really understand the creature behaviors to like certain aspects, perhaps we can at least reconstruct some areas that we lost these details. And you can see really very detailed information that perhaps art, science, and technology can create hope for us.
So that's also the reason why you really like nature as a data set for your work. So it's really like preserving also kind of a memory of the nature.
Yes, similarly, this is a project from recently, I'm calling it Glacier Dreams. Thanks to Hans Ulrich, he challenged this time, what else we can do about the current debate on AI. I walk 8 kilometers with 50 kilogram equipment in glaciers and collect more than 6 million images in 10 days with my team. So what I want to say is it's possible to create our own models. We collect image, sound, sand, and even climate data from Iceland, then Greenland, and then Antarctica. So there are solutions to problems, but it is uncomfortable zone. and it needs a lot of research and resource.
Yeah, perhaps like for the last 50 minutes we talk a bit about the future. It's already quite futuristic, but I'd like to talk even more about the future. Like, Claudia, what do you think? Like, what kind of new technologies and concepts are you excited to explore in the next following years?
So I must say these large language models, which are the foundation also for ChatGPT and the stuff we're doing, will have tremendous impact on everything. On the way our children learn at school, at teaching at university, on literally all aspects of life. Yeah, so imagine that a combination of human beings and these models will give answers to people who call the call center. Imagine what huge impact that will have on software development, because instead of coding everything yourself, you have also these algorithms help you code. So it has tremendous impact, and I would actually say that in a couple of years from now, there will be hardly any job which is not affected in one way or the other by large language models. So I'm extremely excited of somehow doing a humble contribution to shaping that future in a way which is actually consistent with our values. And I like to use the term human-centered technology, and with that I mean technology needs to serve humans and not the other way around. And therefore I think it's so important that we have artists ask the right question, because it's not only that technology inspires art, but also artists inspire business people and technologists. It's important to talk to our children, to social workers, to everyone, actually to understand how we can actually use that for better. By the way, I'm absolutely convinced of the tremendous potential, and therefore I hope that we find a great way of being smart creators instead of naive consumers. And therefore it is so important that we have these formats where many people can actually have access to those technologies, to the pieces of art, and to what actually gets being done with that. And if we do that, if we create really human-centered large language models and algorithms, I think in many aspects we can make our life even better. And we might eventually find time to reflect upon what is important as a human being. And I believe in the future, this is much more about empathy and creativity and the things we actually use for that. Maybe let me just say one thing, Refik, to what you just said. I must say I'm extremely inspired and look very much forward to experiencing smelling, hearing, touching, and seeing. Yeah, and I nevertheless hope that our memory will not only be kept in the digital world, but I really hope we are wise enough to actually make sure that in the physical reality we do not kill everything. Yeah, so that would be my hope for that. But I'm really very excited about the possibilities of working with these models. Now, I don't want to bore the audience, but I'm using them more for practical, in our case, practical things like making sure that fiber planning is fast and making sure that the router works perfectly in any corner of your apartment. So we use a lot these models to actually help to solve practical technical problems. But I'm, of course, very much inspired about the possibilities which they can actually give to us. So for me, that's the most important, probably the most important technology evolution which we have actually ahead of us.
And Refik, do you believe in singularity? Like, will we have like autonomous art created by autonomous machine artists, perhaps for a machine audience soon? Or is this still sci-fi Blade Runner style?
So this wasn't my answer, but I still want to show this image because I'm going to Barcelona, unfortunately, tomorrow morning, or fortunately, I'm in this debate. I want to stay in Düsseldorf to see the city. But I think it's really, I completely agree with that, but I don't want to sound wishful thinking again. Let's just be honest about AI. AI means it's a mirror for humanity. And I think we have 50% chance, like in life. So very honest, very open, I think my view is we have to be sure which 50% we want to be. And I really love this quote from Gaudi because he really talks about originality consists in returning to the origin, does that which is original in terms of the simplicity of the first solutions. It's very clear. It's a mirror for humanity. And I think what I found very fascinating is art brings us together. Like in this room, we are all together. I don't know how do you feel holding your person next to you, but that's a very like feeling to me when I met together with people. And I think it's possible that with art as the campfire for humanity, if there's something like that, it's a very powerful point to ask artists and creators questioning from heart these systems. And if we do it rightfully, and I think there's that solution, that hopefully things doesn't go wrong. So I totally believe that art can do that. Art can heal us quantifiably or spiritually or intellectually, and it's there for centuries. So that's, I think, a good compass for us, for humanity. But also believe that we should, again, not ban something so powerful for humanity because we have bad people in the world. I think we can still be hopeful, inspiring, not wishful thinking, smart, but still hold on to this possibility for helping humanity. Because I do believe AI can bring objective perspectives if there is no bias in the data. AI can bring healing context, scientifically, spiritually, emotionally. And I'm 100% sure in the next couple of years we are seeing many breakthroughs, like in DeepMind's gift 200 million protein folding. Like they gifted 200 million protein foldings into humanity, which will take 1 billion day for PhD students. I mean, there are so many breakthroughs that we have to remember before canceling or banning something very powerful and useful for humanity.
Okay. I think I cannot add any more questions, so we should ask you, the audience. Yeah,
I'm going back to Barcelona. If you're in Barcelona by any chance, another example, we are coming together to hug the building, Gaudi's Casa Batlló. So,
when
like we are here together in this.
Yes.
So art connect us.
Is the opening the next day? So,
yes, it was last year and got more than significant thousands of emails. And Mayor said, "All right, I'm closing street one more time, but this last time." So because it's very much hacking the city, it's a common street. It's a public, open, free, happy to host you if you're in Barcelona.
So perhaps you have a glass of water and we ask the audience. I'm sure you will have thousands of questions and perhaps we can reduce it to some